Good evening, this is BelGeode, and we are back with some more X-Plane 11. Howdy, folks, and Happy New Year! We are back with some more X-Plane 11. And tonight I am preempting our normal Papua New Guinea tour that we've been working on the last few episodes to do a special episode where I'm going to give you a first look, my first look, of X-Plane's native VR. Now, as I'm sure you're probably aware, over the Christmas holidays, Laminar Research gave us the gift of the X-Plane 11.20 beta preview. I can't stress that enough. This is a beta preview. This is not the official release of 11.20. This is not even the official beta release. This is just a beta preview. So basically a proof in concept to see how far they've come with the whole native VR thing. One thing I can tell you straight off the bat, and believe me, I've been messing around in this thing since Christmas Day. It is way better than using X-Plane with Fly Inside. There are so many more optimizations included, and the implementation of the entire product I thought is pretty cool. Now, with that having been said, there's still a long ways to go, so by all means, if you've got feedback, let them know so that way they can update this thing and get it the way we would like to have it. Alright, so tonight here's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to give you a little teaser of the next area that we're going to be flying in the regular X-Plane series that I'm doing. This is Vanuatu, which is an island chain in the South Pacific, close to places like Australia or Papua New Guinea, so on and so forth. And the airport that we're sitting at, which you may have seen in the little outside view, is Siwo, which is a part of a package that was designed by a gentleman by the name of Paul. Now, he also has FSX and P3D versions of the Vanuatu island chain. However, this is his X-Plane version, which I thought was really cool. I've been meaning to show you the FSX version, but I really haven't had the chance to sit down and record any more FSX videos as of yet. I know Ali will probably kill me, so yeah, I'm going to need to get on the ball on that. And then the other thing that I want to give a first look of is this neat little aircraft that I picked up yesterday. This is the vFlyteAir, whom the name may be familiar if you remember, like the SR-20, the Cirrus SR-20, and a couple of other notable GA aircraft. But this particular one, what attracted me was this. Yes, Grumman, as in the makers of the F-14 Tomcat. I had no idea that they tried to break into the GA market at one point in time. This is the AA-5 Traveler, and when it was initially designed in like the late 60s, early 70s, it was intended to compete against companies like Cessna as far as for pilot training. It didn't gain as much traction as they would have hoped, and it was only produced for a few short years, and then it was no longer produced. But they did make modifications to it and change the name and so on. So over the years, there have been various versions of this that came out. But I fell in love with this little aircraft. I love the vintage feel of it. If you look around here, you can see all kinds of good stuff. Like in the back seat, we've got some headphones there for our passengers if we should decide to take any. There's a little cargo compartment back there. You can put your luggage. Even the cockpit canopy opens and closes like a fighter jet, which I think is really cool. I love that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, since it's an older aircraft, it doesn't have a lot of the modern accoutrements. You may notice we've got old school radios and ADF here. We do not have a GPS, but part of the reason why we're doing this in native VR is I want to show you what comes with native VR. That's going to help us along here. Ta-da! This bad boy here is called the X-Pad. Yeah, as you can tell, it pretty much looks like an iPad, except it's virtual. Right now, it's currently attached to my Oculus Touch controller, so I'm able to move it around the virtual space here. And one of the things that I really like about this little thing is not only will it help you reset your pilot view if you get all askew, but it'll show you a map. So here you can see on the map, we are in Vanuatu island chain. And we are over by November Victor Sierra Echo, which is of course Siwo Airport on a small island. We're going to be traveling to the northeast to this little airport that's marked with an XXXX. It's an unmarked airport, but it is on like a little hilly forested island, and I think it's just far enough that we should be able to make it there in good time. As you can see, the wind is blowing from the west, 277 at 6 knots. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to taxi down that way, turn around, and then take off in that direction, as I'm sure you can see with the windsock right there. And I do have the fault clouds going as well. I am not using SkyMax Pro because one of the bad things I noticed about SkyMax Pro in VR, the clouds tend to rotate noticeably when you move your head around in VR. Until they fix that, it just doesn't do it for me. It just completely spoils the immersion. Alright, but now that we have an idea of where we're going, let's see if we can get this bird started up. Okay, so we did our exterior walk around. Everything is looking good. And I'm going to move this out of the way here so that way it's not interfering with my startup procedure. We'll just kind of keep it there floating in mid-air for the time being. That's a beautiful thing about VR. And the first thing we're going to need to do is remove before flight. So we'll click on that, get rid of that. You'll notice I'm using the Oculus touch controllers. The Rift package that I bought came with two of them, one for the left hand, one for the right hand. You can also use the HTC Vive touch controllers, and this is actually the way that Laminar would prefer you to fly in their simulator. Since I've got the Cytec X52, I will primarily be using that, but I do use this to help manipulate a lot of the switches and knobs and so on. And that's the other thing that I was attracted to about vFlyteAir's aircraft here, is the fact that just about all the switches and knobs can be manipulated using this little controller. Eventually, I'd like to see them incorporate some kind of mouse interaction, so a lot of the current planes that you have, if they're not optimized for any kind of touch control or VR controls, they're probably not going to work properly for you until we get mouse interaction functionality back in there. The other thing that I need to make mention of in VR, you may have limited physical real estate around you. So what I suggest, if you do have a yoke or a HOTAS or something, bind one of your hat switches to your camera movement controls. The reason why, you want to be able to slide over left, right, or even pull the dashboard in front of you because you might be hitting your desk or something. And I'll give you a prime example. You see that little silver thing in the center there? Right now, I can't reach it with the touch controller. But if I slide to the center, I can click it, and voila, look at that. We've got some change down there. There's a couple nickels, looks like a dime and a few pennies. That is so cool. I love stuff like that. Alright, so we'll close that back up. And while we're over here, here's another little thing I want to show you. Check this out. Look at that. It's an actual glove box that contains the airworthiness certificate of this aircraft. Is that not the coolest thing? I love stuff like this. This is the stuff that endears me to a developer's aircraft. So yeah, we have the camera movement controls connected here, so that way we can just slide all around. And if we wanted to, we could even sit in the back, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and get started up here. Alright, so let us begin that process. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to want to do, you'll notice our nifty little Grumman keys here. I'm going to click that and they will magically put themselves in the ignition. Okay, we're also going to get our power on, so the right switch is our battery, and I'm just going to flick the controller up. So there we go, that will get it started. And we'll also get our alternator on. by flicking it up. And this is where I'm going to slide and move the camera around here. Alright, so I want nav lights on. I want flashing beacon on. And I think that's it for lights for the time being. Avionics, we'll leave that off until we get the engine started. Since this is an older aircraft, the battery might be not the greatest, so I'm sure we'll be fine with that. I am going to need the fuel pump on in a second, but before I get to that, I'm going to push in our mixture knob. And we'll get the fuel pump up and running. We do have a primer in this thing, so to operate the primer, I'm actually going to click it and move my hand up and down. Alright, that should be enough. And let's open up the throttle a little bit. And we'll shout, "Clear prop!" Whoa, I thought my brakes were on. Alright, let's close this primer fully here. I'm pretty sure I've got my parking brakes on. That's them right there. Huh, it's interesting. Okay, but we did get a good engine start, so we're good to go there. It's a little bit loud, so I'm going to take this opportunity to close the cockpit. I love that. Look at that fabric texture on the ceiling of the canopy there. That is too cool. And since it is a little loud, we do have headphones that we can put on, so I'm just going to click this here, and you'll notice that it attenuated the sound a little bit. Alright, now, like I said, we're going to be going down there, turn around, and take off, so not too far. Since that is the case, what I'll do is I'll already turn the strobe on, and our landing lights, and we'll leave the flashing beacon on for the time being. I really don't think it's going to kill anything. Okay, flaps will leave you up for now. I'll put you down when we get to the edge of the runway. And let's see what we've got here. Our engine temperature is slowly but surely coming up, but it is in the green, so if we wanted to, we could taxi. Altimeter is currently set to 29.85, which is where it should be. Let's make sure that matches. Yes, looks like it does. Compass, you are currently set to 230 degrees. You are not set to 230 degrees here, so I'm going to push this in. And let's see, 230. Almost there. There we go. Okay, that would appear to be where we need to be, so we'll pull that back out. There is also a rudimentary autopilot in this thing. Oh, that reminds me, I need to get our avionics up and running here. So yeah, this switch up here is for the autopilot, and this is the actual autopilot controls. So you have the left knob, which controls your pitch, and the right knob, which controls your roll. Very basic stuff. I might show it to you when we get airborne. I am, however, going to get our carb heat up and running. Imagine that will come in handy. Oh, come on. There you go. You can tell there's still a little bit of functionality work that needs to be done with this Oculus touch controller here. Okay, but we're pretty much set to roll out to the runway, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Parking brake off. Man, this thing is noisy. Holy crap. Listen to all that rattling and bumping and squealing. Oh, man. I love vintage aircraft. Now, when I do the Vanuatu tour, after I'm finished with the Papua tour, I will be incorporating this aircraft as well as a few others, including the Grumman Goose that I gave you a teaser of in the middle of the Papua tour. So you can expect to see all of those good planes for our little island hopping adventure here. Eventually I will make it back to the States and continue some of the adventures there, but I'm finding a lot of solace when it comes to flying around in the South Pacific. It's such a beautiful area. Plus, I'm a sucker for oceans, so what can I say? Alright, so there's the end of the runway. Probably throttle us back to idle here. And we'll swing us around. It's a pretty wide turn there. Okay, one of the quirky things about this aircraft is even though it'll basically jump off the ground, it doesn't have a really good climb rate. And in addition to which, when you're landing, she has a tendency to float. So we're going to have to pull her down to damn near stall speeds before we actually have the wheels touch the ground. Okay, but now that we're in position, let me get everything set up here. First things first, I want my transponder set to alt. So there we go, we are now transponding. Our flaps, and the flaps are kind of weird in this thing. Instead of just clicking the button once and it goes down to each notch, you gotta kind of repeatedly do that. And we do have a flap gauge up here as well too. So 1/3, that should be about right. Yep. Yep. Alright. Next order of business. Do we need the Pitot Heat? Temperature says it's about 76 degrees right now. I don't even think we need the Pitot Heat, so I'm going to forego that for now. We are pulling from the left tank currently. Right tank's got the same amount of gas, so that should be fine. I'm going to move you back over to this side here, so that way I can see you while we're flying. There we go. Alright, one thing we do need to do before we take off, we need to check our magnetos. So, the way that they say you're to do that is to bring the RPM up to about 1800. Okay, so there we go, 1800 RPM, and then we're going to want to slowly back it off to the left. So that's our right mag. We'll notice a drop. Yep, that is about good, so we'll put it back up. Okay, we're back up, and let's slowly click the left mag. Yep, we've got a drop. Very good. Alright, and back up to both. Okay, everything is looking good, so we are now brakes down, throttles up. And let's take this bird for a fly. Brakes off. Full throttle. A little bit of crosswind. We should be fine. We should just lift off of the ground because our airspeed is alive. This is a fixed gear aircraft, so we do not have to worry about pulling the gear up. Okay, and then we'll make our right turn after we're feet wet. Alright, so we are now feet wet, and as you can see on the map, we are going to need to make a pretty drastic turn to the right here. So, I think we should probably set up to go 030 degrees, and when we get to about 2,000 feet above sea level, we'll level her off and try out that autopilot. Let's swing out to the right. Because it's so humid today, the visibility is a little poor. There you can see the island that we just took off from. Okay, so far we are looking pretty good, and I believe that will get us where we need to go. look at those clouds. You know, even though that's default weather, I gotta say that kind of looks pretty good. And more importantly, there's not a whole heck of a lot of FPS hit. I am stable at around 45 FPS right now. Okay, Autopilot, let's turn you on. There's a little bit of a jerk there. And now that we've got the Autopilot on, it should stabilize us at about 2,000. If not, we'll have to use this knob here. I'm going to turn off our fuel pump. Leave everything else on. And let me push this in and trim us up just a bit. There we go. Right there should do the trick. Okay, so now we've got some airspeed. Very nice. And it's, like I said, it's just a simple autopilot. You got your pitch hold, you got your roll hold, and as long as everything is looking where it should be, I say this will be a very pleasant flight indeed. Okay, so let's talk shop a little bit here. As far as performance and quality, some of the things that I had to go through to actually get this thing to perform the way that it is right now. It's a little bit squirrely. If you're an HTC Vive user, you don't have nearly as many problems as us Oculus Rift users. HTC Vive, you can just run Steam VR, and this thing latches on to Steam VR, pops you into X-Plane, and everything's good. Everything's kosher. But for us Oculus Rift users, since we also have Oculus Home, there becomes a little bit of a conflict of interest between Oculus Home and Steam VR running. And what tends to happen, or at least what I have noticed, is because the two of those are trying to, jockey for control of your headset, it ends up having a double whammy effect. So your FPS drops into the crapper, and all of a sudden this thing is just not functional when it should be actually better than flying side. So after a number of tweaks, what I've basically hit upon was using the Oculus Tray tool, which is a free add-on that you can download, to set my super sampling, or the pixel density, the clarity that I have in a cockpit, which by the way is really clear. And then Steam VR, I pretty much put that slider all the way down to the left, as low as it'll get, so it's pretty much a non-factor. It's relying more on Oculus Tray tool to give me the resolution that I'm looking for. And then I also set the Oculus Home product to run as administrator. What that does is it allows it to put itself in the background so that its resources are not eating up your FPS and so on. It's giving you a little bit more GPU overhead so that you can actually pull off the VR. And let's not forget, I'm also running OBS while I do this. So something to consider there. All the programs that you have running do eat up CPU cycles and GPU cycles. But right now you want to shoot for about 45 FPS. You'll remember in Flying Side you wanted to have maybe about 30 on the monitor and 90 in the headset. Doesn't really work that way in native VR. In native VR you want to shoot for about 45 FPS on both. So 45 on a monitor and 45 in the headset. And then you will have a judder-free experience. So there you go. If you need any more tips and tricks, I am currently a part of a Facebook group with BambinoGames called Virtual Reality Aviators Group. Feel free to join that group, or you can just head over to his channel. He's been posting some really informative videos on how to set everything up if you're an Oculus Rift user to get the most out of the VR experience with native VR and X-Plane. Highly recommend you check that out. Even if you're an HTC Vive user, you might find some tips and tricks that'll come in handy for you. Alright, but with all my yakking, it looks like we are close to our destination. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take us off autopilot, and we'll see if we can find the airport. And actually, we do have the zoom function in here, so let me see if I can zoom in and locate it. Aha! There we go. That is our airport. Now, one critical thing you will notice as the image is jiggling around there, the left side of the airport is lower than the right side of the airport. So it is an uphill, downhill airport. That could present a problem for me, because you see the way that the wind is going. If we land uphill, we're going to be landing with the wind and not against the wind. We might not have much of a choice, though. We're going to hope that that uphill slope will actually help slow us down. If we try to land going downwind, especially with, you know, an aircraft that likes to float, we might run into some issues. Alright, but either way, it's about time that we start getting this aircraft down, don't you think? So, let's go ahead and turn our autopilot off. And I'm going to throttle us back. I think what we'll do is we'll do a pass on the airport, kind of get an idea of the lay of the land, so to speak, and then we'll turn around and come in. Incidentally, before I forget, I should also mention the trees that I'm using are not default trees. This is the brand new Mr. X HD trees. Highly recommend these things. You get better FPS performance out of X-Plane than using the default trees. You could really just crank up the number of autogen trees and so on that you're getting, and it has very little to no impact whatsoever. So yeah, really good stuff from Mr. X. Highly recommended. Alright, so let's make our pass on this airport here real quick. We're at 1,500 feet above sea level right now. Alright, so already I can see we've got a hill there. Visibility's starting to get poor again, that's all that humidity. So we'll go around that hill and then we'll come back out to sea, and then we'll try to see if we can land at this airstrip here. Okay, so that is the plan, man. I think we got this. We do not want to stall, but we will probably take it down close to stall speed as we're trying to come in. Alright, so there is our airport below us. I'm surprised there's actually people living on this island. I think I saw some houses back there, though, close to that cliff. Wow, look at that little airport. That's crazy. Can't believe people live in places like this, but sure enough, this is based on real life. Okay, there's our hill, so we're going to go around there. We're at 1,300 right now. And I gotta reiterate, folks, this experience in native VR is actually way better than I hoped for. In spite of whatever shortcomings we have right now with the product, this is almost ready for prime time, in my opinion. Alright, let's go on our crosswind leg here. Okay, and there's the airport. Alright, we do not want to hit that hill, so I'm going to swing us over to the right here. Wow, this is really cool. Oh, another little tip I should give you. Whenever you're flying in VR, try to set your visibility no greater than about 20 nautical miles. You can thank me later. For some strange reason, we discovered that it gives a performance increase when you have the visibility set as far out as that. So even if you're not a huge fan of the haze, 20 miles out should be pretty decent visibility for you. It's actually more realistic because you really can't discern too much past that anyway with the human eye, unless you've got like eagle eyes, which is definitely not me. I actually should be wearing my glasses with this thing, but I don't like wearing my glasses at the computer, let alone in the Oculus Rift. Alright, so we are on downwind. I'm thinking we're going to take it feet wet before we run base leg and come into land. So we'll gently bring her down to about 1,000 feet. And this is where that ballet of power comes in. We're managing our throttle. Okay, there is the beach. Wow. Yeah, I would say that Laminar Research pretty much knocked it out of the park. For their first iteration of VR, native VR, I would say that it did a pretty damn good job, and I can't wait to see what else they're planning on adding to this thing to give it more functionality and more flexibility for us. They already posted something on their website about some of the things that they're looking to add to it, and folks, it's looking really good. So if I were you, if you've been sitting on a fence thinking about VR, now would be a great time to start investing in VR. Even if the next generation is coming out within like the next year or two, which we really don't know yet, I would still recommend that you try it out now, because it's in a place where it is just about good to go. Alright, base leg. Trim us up a little bit here. Okay, and here's the proof in the pudding. This is the whole reason why we use VR. Lining up for final all of a sudden becomes a hell of a lot easier than trying to do it on a 2D monitor. Alright, I'm going to cut our power back. Look at that. Perfectly lined up. Of course, we're going to need to be considerably lower, so I'm dropping us down at a pretty steep angle here. I'm going to trim us up a little. I want to lose airspeed. I want to bring this thing pretty much down to a stall so that we don't end up floating too much. There's Mr. X's HD trees. Alright, we are currently over the trees, and with the last of the power that we have before we stall out, pretty hefty flare. Just hold it right there. A little bit of a bounce. Alright, but we are down. We are down. Even though we got a pretty decent uphill slope here, I'm going to hit the brakes. Okay, there we go. Nice little coral or gravel landing strip there. Beautiful, beautiful. Not a shabby landing. Look at this place, though. Is that not the coolest thing? All these hills and, of course, the beautiful trees. Compliments of Mr. X, free of charge. Wow. That's just awesome. Alright, so, now that we're here, I think that's about everything that I wanted to show you as far as the native VR first look. So we'll get our flaps up. We'll taxi down to the little airport building that they've got there. Little X-Pad, thank you so much for your assistance. I'm going to turn you off now. And we'll just move you back over here and set you on a co-pilot seat. I'm also going to turn off some of our lights and everything. Alright, so landing lights are off, strobe lights are off, beacon will leave you on, nav lights will leave you on, fuel pump is off. Okay. And let's make our way to the airport terminal. So overall, folks, is this a better experience than Fly Inside? Hell yes. Don't get me wrong, I still intend to use Fly Inside for things like FSX, and I'm really pushing for Fly Inside and Dovetail to work together to see if they can get implementation on Flight Sim World with Fly Inside, because I mean, honestly, that sim needs VR, and it's about time that they catch up with everyone else. They don't even have to do anything. Fly Inside will do all the work, pretty much. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that they will do that. But as far as X-Plane goes, I think my Fly Inside days are now numbered, because this is a much better quality, much better functionality, and the finished video that you're watching even has a better quality than everything that I was recording using OBS with Fly Inside and so on and so forth. So this is going to be the new gold standard as far as I'm concerned. Alright, so here is our little airport. What is the name of this place? Tonoga. Okay, well, welcome to Tonoga, folks. I'm going to pull us up right about here, because I see some wheel chocks there that I can, like, shove underneath my wheels. Let's get our parking brakes on. And wow, you want to talk about backwoods. Look at all that plywood. Holy crap, did they even finish building this terminal? Some dude's Range Rover over there, too. Alright, but welcome to Tonoga. We are here. We made it safe and sound. Native VR performed flawlessly, as did our little Grumman AA-5 Traveler. I am really, really happy with how this has all come together. Alright, let's turn everything off. And we'll kill the avionics. I don't know if that'll wreck our battery if we do it in that order, but too late now. Alright, flashing beacon, nav lights, and alternator will turn you off. Transponder, I really should have turned you off as well, so... Oh, no, you're on standby. There we go. Still a little sensitive. I'm hoping that they're going to make adjustments for that at some point in time. Alright, keys. Turn you off, and battery, turn you off. The other cool thing I love about this aircraft, if you sit here, you can actually listen to the battery whine die down. In fact, let me take out the headphones. It's pretty loud, huh? That's pretty neat. I love it. Alright, canopy, we can open you. And the last thing that I want to show you before I call it quits here tonight, folks, I want to show you the ability to teleport. That, if nothing else, has been the coolest feature so far about X-Plane's native VR. Here's how it works. You take your touch controller, and the little stick here that I'm moving around, you push it down, point it in the direction you want to go. You can rotate the stick around to tell it in which direction you want to look, and let it go. Voila! Just like that, we've managed to teleport ourselves outside of the aircraft and onto the apron. And of course, because you're already calibrated for your real-life height, you can get a good idea of how large these aircraft are in person by standing next to them. So if we teleport a little bit closer, you'll see this is a very small plane. It really is, and it's so cool because I've stood up next to some of the larger aircraft that I have here in X-Plane, and it's been so incredible to really get a sense of scale. That's what this native VR is doing, and honestly, I think it is so worth it. So now I can do, little aircraft walk-arounds and so on. This is one of the more annoying things so far, is this little VR pad doesn't go away, so it's in like every single view, but hopefully they'll correct that at some point in time. Alright, let's go to the back of the plane. So there we go. You can see our tail. Look at that. Grumman American, baby. Grumman, my absolute favorite aircraft company. Whenever anybody posts online, hey, what do you like, Boeing or Airbus? That's my answer right there. Grumman. That is the only answer right there. Alright. But I think that we've had enough fun today in native VR. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this first look. You're going to be seeing a lot more of this, especially as they develop the product and, make it really, really shiny for us. So, as always, this has been BelGeode. I have been flying in X-Plane 11, this time in X-Plane 11.20. The beta review of native VR. If you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Next time you see me, I will be back in Papua New Guinea because I still need to finish up the tour with the Raven and everything. And I'm probably going to be using X-Plane 11.20 for the remainder of the tour. Since I have it, might as well use it, right? But for now, I'm going to say goodnight. And I sincerely hope that everyone has a really fabulous new year. And 2018 is going to be a kick-ass year. I just know it. So thank you as always for your support. And I will catch you on the next one. Ciao!